And welcome back. You are listening to Subculture After Dark. Well, we told you that there would be a lot of new Australian music on tonight's show, and we're keeping that promise right now by playing the brand new track from Werewolves. This track is called Destroyer of Worlds, and of course it's from their brand new album that is coming out on August the 11th. But we thought, let's find out a little bit more about this amazing album and also about this great track. We'll actually get Sam from the band on the phone. So, Sam, welcome.
Yo, man, how's things?
I am really, really well, mate. This track is just absolutely amazing, and it's interesting because I just saw Oppenheimer, the film, last night as well, and we'll tell the audience in a little bit about how that all ties together, but mate, this track is amazing. You guys must be so proud of it.
Oh, thanks heaps. Look, the way we write music is, it's so quick and the tracks just get written and then thrown onto albums. So to be honest, until we put the single out and started hearing it again, I'd completely forgotten about it. But I'm pretty pumped to hear that everyone's enjoying it though. That's cool.
Now, mate, I mentioned that I saw Oppenheimer last night. Tell us a little bit about how this track links to the great man himself.
Oh, we've obviously nicked the famous Oppenheimer quote, "I become death, destroyer of worlds." But I guess the take that the song and the song lyrics have on it is that quite often it's an individual who can be a destroyer of worlds, not just necessarily weapons. So we kind of labour that parallel, that metaphor over a good 5 minutes and 40 seconds or so, and just absolutely bludgeon everyone over the head with it. So it's probably subtle and artistic for about the first 40 seconds. The rest of it's just horrific.
I was going to say, it is a little bit of a slower song in some parts. Was that something that you guys were aware of when you were putting it together?
It's something we do deliberately because every show we play, someone's yelling out, "Play something fast!" So we want some really, really horrible slow stuff in the set to be able to disappoint the shit out of them with.
So tell us a little bit about, like you said, it is from Oppenheimer's famous quote. Was he someone that you'd always kind of followed or studied, or where did that interest come from in the first place?
I gotta say, first off, it's just, random coincidental good luck that, the single came out the same week as the movie Oppenheimer did. But it came from a really weird place, I'll be honest. It was reading the Clive Barker book, The Great and Secret Show. And in part of that book, the first atomic bomb test that they did is caught sort of in a time loop. And I was really amazed, I guess, to find out that, something that I'd read, which I, thought was total fiction. When I found out that it was actually true, then I was like, oh, holy moly, I've got to do a bit more digging into this. And sort of the name of the town, I think in Mexico, where it was held. The whole thing sounds almost kind of almost like a lost biblical tract, that's, turned up about 2,000 years too late. There's more, it's, of course, an intensely scientific and militaristic moment in sort of relatively recent human history, but there's something about it that also smells like the continuation of an old, very long story. So I guess that's where the interest sort of in that kind of came from. Not just loving massive things blowing up and destroying everything. That's pretty cool too.
Definitely. Now, as I mentioned before, the album is called My Enemies Look and Sound Like Me. It comes out on August the 11th. Is Destroyer of Worlds a good example of what we can expect to hear on the album?
Absolutely not. No. It's, the rest of the album is geared towards all those knuckleheads who are screeching, "Play something fast" at us. The album's pretty forthright, pretty brutal. We kind of have a very dark, I guess, sense of humour that we plough a fair bit through the album. And each album we do, we normally just bust out 2-3 serious sounding kind of songs, and I guess Destroyer Worlds is that song for this album. But the rest of it is just like absolute mayhem. It's go to work. Anyone who's heard one of the other albums and liked one of the other albums, they're going to like this one. Anyone who's kind of like waiting for the album where we turn things around and start like doing, 10-minute aggressive tracks or like gent interludes or like, brutal death metal breakdowns and shit, like with big pinging snares, they're going to walk away disappointed and wanting their money back, which they won't get.
Yeah. So what was the recording process like this time around? Like, we were just coming out of a pandemic. Were a lot of these tracks written during that time? And then what was it like being able to get into the studio and record?
We kind of we're kind of on a roll at the moment. Like we're putting out an album each year, and we've sort of like done that now since 2019. And the recording process has sort of worked for us through the pandemic. We find that just works as well for us outside the pandemic as well. We're not the kind of guys who all get together in a studio, smell each other's farts, and start talking about like, how we're going to go about writing a song. It's very, almost mechanical how we go about it. Matt will write an album in a caffeine-fueled weekend, send it to me and Dave. Before I know what's going on, Dave has like laid down all the drums to it. And then they both turn their heads towards me, and I know it's time to get my thumb out of my ass and start working. Work out the bass, write down the vocals, and booyakasha, we got an album. So
yeah, that's
pretty much how we do it. I live over in Adelaide as well. The guys are in Melbourne, so that sort of works well for us. Like we sort of throw our bits in at a distance, one after the other. And we've got a bit of faith in each other as well, so there's not much need to, when someone records something, to sort of like go, Dave, that drum track sucked, can you do that again? And there's never an occasion with Matt, like, where I'm like, oh yeah, you fluffed and you need to redo that. It's not the case with those guys. So, by the time it gets to me, it's pretty much perfect, and it's all mine to ruin.
Yeah. Now, you've got a pretty big show this weekend. This is almost like a time travel here at the moment, because this interview is going to air on our radio show this week, but it'll be in our podcast next week. So you are doing a big show this weekend, but then you've got some more shows coming up in October. Tell us a little bit about the show this weekend and then about the shows coming up in October.
Yeah, man. Friday night we're playing with Exhumed at the Bendigo Hotel. So that will be a good one. Like that's the one for the Exhumed diehards who want to hear like the full set. It will be an interesting one for us as well, because we'll be chucking a few new tracks into the set. We haven't played a show since about March or something, so probably forget how this entire thing goes. But anyway, in October we'll be out on the road with Archspire and Ingested, doing a tour of Australia. And we're really looking forward to that one. I was one of the people who saw Archspire the last time they were out here touring with Subculture, and I was told by a mate to go along. And as a rule, I hate technical death metal, absolutely loathe it. And I hadn't heard any of their songs. I didn't know anything about them. And I turned up, and I was just like, oh, wow, okay. So yeah, it's. I'm gonna be honest. It's not all that often I see metal bands these days where I just go wow, and my ghost follicles get blown back or anything. But that was definitely the case when I saw them. So when we managed to score the support, I was really stoked. Get to run amok with them for 5 days in a row. I mean, who wouldn't?
Exactly, and because they're a band that you love the music of, and as you said, they really blew you away. Does it make you a little bit nervous to share the stage with them, or is it more excitement?
No, it's more excitement. If we make a point of doing the most regressive, primate, caveman death metal possible. There's no solos. We make a point of being drooling, knuckle dragging morons, with everything that we do. So we're obviously not treading on the same turf as a band like Archspire. So I think it's kind of a good balance. got the headline of being these amazing musician maestros playing the most well-crafted, well-mixed, well-mastered, super sounding like tunes, all of them with like superhuman abilities. And then you got us, like who'll just drag our knuckles up onto the stage and like grunt a few times per beat, and then proceed to blast beat like everyone's skulls in. So everyone knows kind of what to expect from us and what to expect from them. It's not going to be like, you're not going to confuse one band for the other. So I think that sort of works in our favour. If we were a serious band playing serious music, I'd be fucking scared.
Well, mate, you are underestimating yourself a little bit there, because you guys are absolutely amazing live. I can attest to that. But we are excited now that we're going to be able to play Destroyer of Worlds to our listeners right now. And, of course, everybody out there, the album My Enemies Look and Sound Like Me comes out on August the 11th as well. But, Sam, to finish off, what would you like to say to everybody out there before they take a listen to Destroyer of Worlds?
Or get on down to Exhumed, or because this podcast comes out next week, I hope if you are there that we didn't disgrace ourselves too heavily. If you like what you saw, we're going to hit you with it again in October with Archspire. It's going to be a hell of a gig, ingested as well for everyone who needs like a bit of brie and some pits with people windmilling. And yeah, thank you very much for your support.